Hi, glad to welcome you here to this session. I'm here to talk to you for a few minutes about how technology is changing the entertainment industry and why that's exciting and important to professionals like yourself in the animation industry. So the emergence of interactive experience is huge. We're seeing it in interactive toys, interactive TV, how we're moving from passive consumption to more interactive experiences for kids. And what does this mean and how does it create this magical experience? We're changing from the child sitting back and watching to the child interacting and engaging more in experiences. And that can be crucial to creating more immersive and fun experiences and keeping the kids engaged and getting their imaginations fired up. So we're starting to see these experiences more and more, from animated cartoons to TV shows to choose your own adventure to educational tools for kids, and kids actually having real experiences and real conversations with their favourite animated character, and it's having a real impact. So SoapBox Labs, we're right in the middle of this. We are voice technology for kids, and we license our technology to third-party providers of products for children across the globe and in numerous industries like in education and in gaming and toys, and also in the animation and entertainment industry. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes giving you a bit of background into SoapBox Lab and where we've come from. So, we were founded in 2013. We've developed our own proprietary deep learning technology, speech recognition technology that is leveraged and integrated into products and services across the globe. It's low code, so that means it's quick and easy to integrate and get you up and running in those experiences in a really short time frame. We deliver online experiences, but for those who need offline or even embedded on chips and toys, we deliver into that as well. What's paramount for us has always been the accuracy. Can we develop accurate experiences? Because while adults have always had great experiences with speech recognition technology in the past 5 years, kids have not been served that way, and it was our mission, and what we've delivered is high accuracy for all kids aged 2 to 12, regardless of accents or dialects. What we're doing is really changing these experiences across toys, games, apps, and all different platforms around, and making that a simple, quick and easy experience to get going. So why have SoapBox Labs developed a child-specific speech recognition system? Well, basically because children's voices are dramatically different to adults. So they're physically very different. They have thinner, shorter vocal tracts, smaller vocal folds. Their language is so different when you think about a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8, 10, how their language development changes quite dramatic, up to the point where they're about 10 and 12, where they're more predictable, they're sounding more adult-like. Another factor that really changes things compared to adults is their behaviours. So adults often want to interact with a voice assistant, let's say, and we straighten ourselves up and we think about what we want to say in advance, and we formulate it in the best possible way to get the best possible experience based on prior knowledge. And then we say what we want to the voice system. But kids don't work like that. Kids often blurt out what they want to say. They often elongate or over-enunciate or shout or whisper or sing. And all these factors, including the background noise, because kids are always in noisy environments, really mess with a system that's been modelled on adult voices, adult language, adult behaviours. And while kids will have an okay experience, it's kind of hit and miss how well it will work, it will never work as accurately as it does for adults. So what we did was built a bespoke solution that services kids' voices, kids' behaviours, kids' language, and kids' environments. And that's really important to have a real robust, accurate experience. So when you integrate it into your product, the kid has the best experience that's possible. What we like to do is, and what we have done from the beginning, is do that research and figure out, well, why is it that kids' voices are so different from adults? And what you can see here is a short video that illustrates the differences when kids say the same word, umbrella, and we're not counting for how loud it's said here. This is just where the information resides, and you can see that it resides in a very different part of the spectrum than it does for adults. And you can begin to understand why adult speech tech doesn't work for kids, and why the younger the child, the poorer the experience.
Umbrella.
Umbrella.
Umbrella. Umbrella. Umbrella.
So what we're doing when we bring voice technology into these entertainment play experiences, you're bringing very magical and enjoyable and an immersive experience. So when the child picks up the toy, or they play with the digital toy in an app, or they're watching an animation with the character, and when the character says, and we can all remember the old Dora the Explorer videos, or even the more recent Octonauts, and the child is asked, well, what was your favourite part of the episode? And Dora just puts her hand behind her ear and listens, and the child may or may not blurt out their favourite experience. And the cartoon goes, yeah, mine too. And, the kids after a while know that's not real, or it's part of it. It's getting there towards the experience, but not actually having the real experience of the character actually listened and the character actually responded based on what your favourite colour was, or what your favourite part of that story was, or whether you want to go into the cave or into the forest. If the character and the speech technology behind it is actually listening, you can begin to start to see how magical an experience we can create for the child, so they really think that their character is hearing them and listening and responding appropriately. And that's where we can create some really cool experiences. What we do here is that we have in SoapBox Labs, we create all these tools and all these features of our platform that allow you to do that. So you can imagine we can do wake word detection. So it can be calling the character and the character wakes up, or it can be simply voice activity detection. So once the child starts to speak, the character responds. We can do voice search, so the child can, asked to play a jigsaw with Dora, or they can play their favourite song, or they can listen to a story, but they're giving commands, and what the commands are doing is searching the activities in the experience. We can do things like have dialogue, so the character or the experience can ask a child a question and listen for many potential answers, and then respond appropriately to the answer that the system detected. And we were able to do voice control, right? So we can say, you can even command a character to move around a screen, maybe open a box, open the door. The system is listening and picking up, and it doesn't matter how the kid responds. They don't have to respond exactly. You don't ask a kid, what's your favourite colour, and expect only blue, because sometimes a kid will say blue. Sometimes they say, my favourite colour is blue. Or they'll say, well, blue. And our system will be able to search the audio for all the possible colours and search the audio regardless of what else was said, and pick out the blue and give that back to your system, the developer, in order to be able to create that next response to the child. And that's really important, to be able to do that accurately, no matter what age the child is, but also to be able to have that experience that the child is going to be responded to accurately, and that's important. We're creating these magical experiences. We're giving the tool of voice and hopefully firing your imagination about how you can integrate that into your experiences. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to my colleague Declan, who is our head of UX at SoapBox, and he's going to talk you through a little more about the experiences you can create. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Declan and I'm the head of UX at SoapBox. So Trish has already spoken to you about why we need voice technology specifically for kids and what the mission at SoapBox is. Having worked in EdTech and children's consumer apps over the years, I understand how important a content strategy can be. So today I want to talk to you about some considerations you may need to make when writing content and creating products for kids' voice. For adults, voice primarily focuses on transactional experiences. And by that I mean the outcome of that interaction determines its success. Voice is being used as utility, as a means to an end. So an example could be booking tickets for a flight, or maybe asking directions when you're driving. For kids, it goes beyond that. They will, of course, still want to watch a video or play a game, but the scope of experiences is much wider. So whether it's escapism or pure entertainment, right through to education, how they feel when having these experiences, when they're interacting with their favourite character or spending time in their favourite world, The experience they have during that is what will determine the longevity and value of the product. It's worth acknowledging that kids are some of the best end users you could hope for. They fundamentally want to succeed. So they want to find the treasure and solve the mystery. They want to help the hero save the city. They want to answer that quiz. So when you first start looking into voice, your first instinct is to try and create this open-ended world where the kid can say or do anything. However, we have found that this often isn't the best approach. It is far more entertaining and meaningful for a kid to experience their choices having an impact on the narrative or story. They want to see that their actions have consequence. So in that regard, a more constrained narrative and approach to content is often the best direction to take. So let's take a look at some guides about how we can better achieve that experience. So be specific. Let's look at this in the context of asking a question. You might initially be tempted to ask a question like, where do you want to go? You may do this to allow the child to provide any answer they want to give them a sense of freedom. However, the opposite often tends to be true. The child may find this decision overwhelming. They may not have enough context to know what their answer is, and the cognitive load of trying to make that decision can just become too much. You are better off asking the question in terms of, do you want to go to the forest, the castle, or to the beach? Structuring the question this way allows for two things. It both lets the child know what their options are, as well as giving them some indication of how best to answer the question. It's also worth noting at this point, it's best to avoid rhetorical questions where possible. Children have a tendency to jump in and start answering them, even while they're asking a question. It is important not to offer too many options. The short-term memory of young children is limited, so quite often they are just going to repeat the last choice they heard if there are too many options, rather than making an actual choice. The recommendation is to have 3 or fewer options at any time. Be flexible. So as adults, we bend to technology. We accommodate how we speak to a voice assistant to help it better understand us. Kids, they're not going to do that. They've grown up around voice, they're digital natives, and they just expect voice to work. So whether they decide to engage through a single word or a train of thought, our role is to account for that. So SoapBox can help with understanding what the child has said, and the role of the content creator is to accommodate and author answers for those. So for example, if we have a simple quiz where we ask, is the answer A or B? If the child chooses to answer A, the first one, or not B, all those potential answers should be considered correct. So it's important to remember the flexibility you afford the end user will determine your product's engagement and repeat use. Be tolerant. So as well as being flexible in terms of the responses you accept from a child, there will be times where you have to account for other undesirable responses. These happen in one of 3 main categories. Unknown, where what was said doesn't have a response or wasn't understood by the system. No response, where silence is heard or the system doesn't hear a reply. Or third, technical, where no response is heard because of a hardware or connection issue, and these should be considered to be handled separately. How you choose to respond to these use cases is just as important as how you respond to a correct answer. The tone of these responses should always be playful and not take the users out of the experience. So instead of just ticking the box of error messaging, look for opportunities to make it part of the writing. Another thing to take into account is what to do if you get several of these non-responses in a row. This is one of the occasions where it's okay to take control back from the user. To do so alleviates any frustration and keeps momentum moving forward in the experience. So if you're getting a long period of silence or non-answers, make a decision on behalf of the user and keep the narrative moving in the correct direction. Be consistent. It's important to have an overall consistency to how your product acts and behaves. One example of this is the idea of universal responses. This is another area for voice design that may differ from more traditional interactive media. Universal commands and actions are important. These are commands that are always valid and available, no matter where or how deep a user is in your product. Think of them as a home button on a traditional graphical user interface. So some examples could be help, go home, stop, or could you repeat that? So especially in the absence of any other interface, these interactions should always be available. So decide what these are up front and set them aside and make them available and valid throughout your entire experience. These are just some examples to consider when designing for voice. The animation industry already has a number of tools and skills that help them create delightful experiences, and these are all transferable across to voice design. Take character, for example. Understanding in your experience how a character will respond, the tone they would use, is a huge part of creating an engaging voice experience. This is where your industry are already experts. This is what you excel at. You already know how your character will react, what they will say or do in any given situation. So this puts you in a great position to start integrating voice into your products. It's still going to be the storytellers and the artists that create these experiences. The technology is going to sit in the background and help you achieve those goals. So SoapBox, we can't wait to see what you guys do next and help you elevate your products by using voice. Thanks for listening.